Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
And alhamdulillah, all praises due to Allah Ta'ala. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. We praise Him, we seek His help, and we ask for His forgiveness. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina. And we seek refuge with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala from the evil of ourselves. Wa min sayyi'ati a'malina. And from the evil consequences of the actions that we choose to do by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's permission. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu. Whomever Allah guides, no one and nothing can lead that person astray. Wa man yudlil. Whomever He leads astray. Wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Then no one else and nothing else can give that person guidance. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. And I bear witness that nothing is worthy of worship in truth except Allah alone and without partner. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His slave and His messenger. Brothers and sisters in Islam, man is naturally prone to forgetfulness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Taha, وَلَقَدْ أَعْهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ آدَمَ مِنْ قَبْلُ فَنَسِيَ وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ عَزْمًا. We had made an oath, a pact with Adam alayhi salam before, but he forgot, and we didn't find him firm in his resolve. And our enemy, Shaitaan, sits along Allah's straight path. He swore by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he swore by Allah's might that he would do so. قال لأقعدن لهم صراطك قال ربي فبما أغويتني. He said, because you led me astray, giving the blame for his misguidance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not taking responsibility for his own actions. قال فبما أغويتني. He said, because you led me astray. لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. I'm going to sit for them along your straight path. ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم. And I'm going to come to them from the front and from the back. وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم. And from the right side and from the left side. ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين. And you will not find most of them to be appreciative, to be grateful. And it's important for us to understand what gratitude is. Gratitude is the path of Islam. The straight path, which is gratitude. Traveling that straight path until we die, is beneficial knowledge and righteous actions. that the shaitan is going to try his best, that as we tread this path in this dunya to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he is going to try to avert us from beneficial knowledge, either by preventing us from getting that knowledge in the first place, or by causing us to be negligent, to focus on those things that are of no benefit to us, and forgetting the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us to have, and by dissuading us from righteous actions, from giving us every reason why not to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to do what he says to do. And so the Muslim has to be careful. And it's times of pandemic like these, it's times of trials and tribulations like these that let a Muslim see by Allah's permission where he's at. This is the time where your iman by Allah's permission takes over. This is the time where you get to see where you are right now, because this dunya is a test. And subhanAllah, from the beauties of the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that you always have time to erase your answers and rewrite new answers as long as you're alive. Even if you messed up on the test, even if we looked at every single answer and said you got this one wrong and this one wrong and this one wrong, as long as you're alive and breathing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the opportunity to fix your answers and to make them right before you die. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to pass his test. And so the shaitan seeks to block us and prohibit us from those things that are beneficial to us, from Allah's straight path, from beneficial knowledge and righteous action. So what we want to talk about today are three ways in which the shaitan, which we can see in this day and time, that the shaitan sits along that path and has averted many believers, many Muslims. As for the kafir, he's already misguided. Shaitan has no shughul, no work with him. It's the believer that he sits for. He's sitting on the straight path for the believer, the one who's trying to get to Allah. From the first ways that he tries to sit along that path is by making us forget, or trying to get us to forget who is in control of our lives. Allah lets us know that he is the one in control. There is no one, nothing that controls anything that happens in your life except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it's good or bad, everything is from Allah. And that's the very first thing he teaches you about himself in the Quran. You recite Surah Al-Fatiha, and the very first thing you say, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Who is Rabbil Alameen? Allah explains that in Surah Al-Shu'ara by the lips of Ibrahim alayhi salam. قَالَ أَفْرَأَيْتُمْ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْبُدُونَ. Do you not see those things that you worship? أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمُ الْأَقْدَمُونَ. You and your forefathers. فَإِنَّهُمْ عَدُوٌّ لِي. All of them are enemies to me. إِلَّا رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Except for Rabbil Alameen. Who is Rabbil Alameen? الَّذِي خَلَقَنِي فَهُوَ يَهْدِينَ. He is the one who created me, and he is the one who I depend on for guidance. Guidance for what is good for me in this life, guidance for what is negative for me in this life, and guidance for how to get close to him. وَالَّذِي هُوَ يُطْعِمُنِي وَيَسْقِينَ. He is the one who provides for me. Not a stimulus package. Everything else is a means by which Allah gets to you what you're supposed to get anyway. What he wrote for you already. وَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينَ. When I get sick, he heals me. He is the one that takes care of me. He is the one who removes the harm. وَالَّذِي يُمِيتُنِي ثُمَّ يُحْيِينَ. He is the one, the only one who will cause my death. And he is the one who will resurrect me. And so these are the things that he knew Allah did as Rabbil Alameen. And so where was his hope? وَالَّذِي أَطْمَعُ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ لِي خَطِيئَتِي يَوْمَ الدِّينِ. His hope was in forgiveness. Because his sins are in his own hands. That's what he has control over. As for what happens to you in life, Allah is in control of that. As mentioned in the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, that when you're 4 months in the womb of your mother, the angel came already and he wrote down how long you're going to live, what your sustenance is going to be. That's not going to change. Allah already wrote that for you. That's not what your concern is. Your concern is your sins. And how are you going to get those things removed off your scales? In the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدَّرَ الْمَقَادِيرَ قَبْلَ أَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ 50,000 سَنَةً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed everything. It's done. The pages are lifted. The ink is dried. 50,000 years before anything was created. And that's why the Muslims, as Allah says in Surah Tawbah, that's why the Muslims say, لَن يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَنَا هُوَ مَوْلَانَا. Nothing will happen to us except what Allah has already happened, or what Allah has already decreed. وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. And let the believers put their trust in Allah. And then look what they said. قُلْ هَلْ تَرَبَّصُونَ بِنَا إِلَّا إِحْدَى الْحُسْنَيَيْنِ. Do you only wait, and he's talking to the disbelievers who they fight against. Are you waiting for one of two beautiful things to happen to us? Either we're going to defeat you, or we will be killed and returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How could they look at death as a beautiful thing? Because they knew that their life and their death and everything that happens to them is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. But the shaitan tries to make us doubt this fact and make us think that someone else and something else can control. This virus is from the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means it is under his control and it does not harm. It does not harm anyone except whom he has written by his wisdom and his mercy and his goodness and his goodness and his mercy and his kindness that it afflict that individual. The second way, the second issue that the shaitan tries to cloud our minds about is Allah's goodness and his mercy. This is a fitna for the disbelievers. They look at what they call evil, the bad things that happen in life, and they question, how can there be a God when bad things happen? But for the believer, he knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And the disbeliever cannot see that mercy, not because it does not exist, but because of the lack of iman. Because he doesn't know Allah, and he doesn't know how Allah operates. He doesn't know that this life is a test. And so everyone's going to be afflicted with something. And perhaps the mercy of that is so that you don't get too comfortable here. So that you recognize this thing is temporary. It wasn't meant to last in the first place. It's just a means by which you get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a means by which you get to worship him and to get close to him and to experience comfort and tranquility and peace of mind, because you know that when everyone else is worried and afraid and bothered and anxious, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control. You wake up in the morning and you say, Asbahna, we've gotten up this morning. Wa asbaha al-mulku lillah. And Allah is in control. Alhamdulillah, I got nothing to worry about. My food, my health, my well-being, Allah has promised to take care of those things for me. And if he takes them away from me, then it is because of his wisdom and his goodness. Either he's removing sins that I will be terrified to see on the day of judgment, or he is raising my levels in Jannah. The believer knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good. And Allah treats the believer differently than he treats everyone else. As Allah mentions in Surah Al-Qalam, أَفَنَجْعَلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَالْمُجْرِمِينَ مَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. Do you think we would make the criminals like those who believe? What's wrong with you? What would make you think that we would deal with the believers in the same way that we deal with those who disbelieve? As Allah mentions elsewhere, إِن تَكُونُوا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you are suffering, فَإِنَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ كَمَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Then know that disbelievers are suffering like you suffer. But there's a difference. وَتَرْجُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَرْجُونَ. But you have hope from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what they don't hope for. They hope for, what do they hope for to come out of this pandemic? They hope to be able to go back to Starbucks and get their Frappuccino in the morning. They hope to be able to continue in sin. That's what they're waiting for. That's what they're waiting for. The believer has different hopes. The believer is looking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and goodness. He is looking for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show his mercy and his kindness. And for the believer, subhanallah, this is a time to rejoice. Rejoice that the promise of Allah is true and that Allah is all powerful. If you benefit nothing else from this pandemic, you benefit that no matter how strong and mighty and powerful the kuffar seem, they're weak and they're subjected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's control. Look at how this virus has crippled them. Look at how they've closed down their own businesses and their own stock markets because they're afraid. As Allah describes, you see the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come to life. As Allah describes in Surah Al-Hashr. مَا ظَنَنْتُمْ أَنْ يَخْرُجُوا. You didn't think they were going to come out. وَظَنُّوا. They thought أَنَّهُمْ مَانِعَتُهُمْ حَصُونُهُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ. And they thought their own fortresses were going to prevent them and protect them from Allah. فَأَتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَمْ يَحْتَسِبُوا. But Allah came to them from a way that they couldn't even realize. وَقَذَفَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الرُّعْبَ. And He put fear in their hearts. يُخْرِبُونَ بُيُوتَهُمْ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ. They destroyed their houses with their own hands. They closed down their own shops. They closed down their markets. They shut off business. They crippled themselves. The Muslim looks at this and says, Allah can do anything. Who would think that the G7 countries, the most powerful nations in the world, as they like to call themselves, who would think in their own lifetime to see all of them crippled at the same time and the same way? When you see that, it gives you confidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control, and it increases you in iman. وَلَمَّا رَأَى الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الْأَحْزَابَ. And when the believers saw the Confederates, قَالُوا هَذَا مَا وَعَدَنَا اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. This is what Allah promised and His messenger. وَصَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. And Allah and His messenger have spoken the truth. وَمَا زَادَهُمْ إِلَّا إِيمَانًا وَتَصْدِيقًا. And it increased them in iman, and it increased them in certainty that Allah's promise is true. And so we put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Listen to Allah's mercy for the believer. Aisha radiallahu anha قالت سألت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن الطاعون. She said, I asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam about الطاعون. Shaykh Uthaymeen in his sharh of Riyadh al-Salihin mentions that الطاعون إما هو وباء معين أو وباء عام. He says it's either a specific plague or it's an infectious endemic, yani in general, any infectious disease that kills numerous people at one time. Aisha asked the Prophet ﷺ about this. This is collected in Sahih Bukhari, Kitab al-Tib. He said, Huwa adabun. He said, Huwa adabun. He said, it is a punishment. Yursiluhu Allahu ala man yasha. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala afflicts with whom He wills. وَجَعَلَهُ رَحْمَةً لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. But He made it, this pestilence is a mercy for the believers. مَا مِنْ عَبْدٍ يَقَعُ الطَّاعُونَ. There is no slave that when a plague hits, يَمْكُثُ فِي بَلَدِهِ صَابِرًا. He sits in his home, sits in his land, patient, knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control, has trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya'lam. This is a condition. Ya'lam. This shows us that knowledge in itself is an act of worship and it has a reward. Ya'lam annahu lan yusibahu illa ma kataba Allahu lah. He knows, he sits in his country, in his land, patient, knowing that nothing will harm him except Allah, that what Allah has written. Illa kana lahu mithlu ajr ash-shaheed. Except that he will get the reward similar to a martyr. How many people has Shaitaan tricked out of this reward? Because he doesn't believe that only thing that will afflict him is what Allah has written for him. That knowledge, along with the patience, the obedience with the knowledge, that's what gets you the reward. The believer is different. Finally, the third way that the Shaitaan tries to come between us and come between the straight path. We've looked at knowledge, and now we'll look at actions. Is that he makes us forget our purpose here. We have to take a step back. You weren't put here to have a good time, and neither was I. That's not what this thing is about. We've gotten distracted living amongst the people who this is all they get. This is all they look forward to. That's why they act like they act. When they leave here, there's nothing positive they have coming. There's nothing else they look forward to. They just believe in Allah. And they have no hope for His reward. As for the believer, you know and I know this is not why you're here to have a good time. And this is different than what Buddhists claim. They say life is pain and suffering. We're not there either. Life is not pain and suffering. Life is a test. That's what it is. And there is joy to be had in this life. But this joy doesn't come from having millions of dollars. This joy doesn't come from being able to dine in whatever restaurant you want to. This joy comes from obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and worship of Allah. And if you don't believe me, think about what you're looking forward to in 3 weeks. You're looking forward to Ramadan. And the kuffar don't understand it. How can you fast over 12 hours in a day for a whole month and you enjoy that? How can you stand for an hour and a half and you enjoy that? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with us is that we know Allah and we know why we were created. And when Ramadan comes around, Allah guides us, most of us, to doing what we were created to do. And that's when a Muslim gets happy. You find he waits 11 months for Ramadan to come around. 7-year-olds and 10-year-olds fasting, praying. Mommy, Abi, I prayed today. I stood for the whole prayer today. I fasted all day. Our children have more patience than their adults. They find joy and happiness in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're different. But we've forgotten. We're not here to have a good time. We're here to worship Allah. And so that's what we focus our attention on. And that's what we spend our time doing. And that's how we find our joy. Allah mentions in Surah Al-Mulk, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ. He is the one who created life and death to test you. That's what it's all about. Life and death and everything else that comes in the middle of it. He mentions in Surah Al-Ankabut, وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ fitna. We test you with good and evil, fitna. And you will come back to us. And you will have to respond about your gratitude for the good things and your patience for the difficulties. This life is a test. We've forgotten that it's a test. And so we're trying to get out of this thing what the other people, what the disbelievers are trying to get out of this thing. And this is where we've gone wrong. Allah has given us this pandemic to be a moment of wakefulness for us, to stop and to think and reflect. In Surah An-Nisa, Allah says, قُلْ مَتَاعُ الدُّنْيَا قَلِيلٌ وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِمَنِ اتَّقَىٰ وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ فَتِيلًا. Say the enjoyment of this life is short, and the hereafter is better for those who have a taqwa, and you will not be oppressed in the least. Al-Hasan al-Basri, he mentioned in ta'liq, in commenting on this ayah, he says, رَحِمَ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا صَحِبَهَا عَلَى حَسَبِ ذَلِكَ. May Allah have mercy on the slave who treats the dunya just like that, a short enjoyment. مَا الدُّنْيَا كُلُّهَا مِنْ أَوَّلِهَا إِلَىٰ آخِرِهَا إِلَّا كَرَجُلٍ نَامَ نَوْمًا. He said the whole dunya, from beginning to end, is like a person who slept for a short while. فَرَآ فِي مَنَامِهِ بَعْضَ مَا يُعْجِبُهُ. And then he saw in a dream a little bit of what pleased him. ثُمَّ انْتَبَهَ. Then he woke up. That statement by Al-Hasan al-Basri reminds us that no matter what you enjoy here, it's going away. Whatever you enjoy, whether it's family, whether it's wealth, whether it's friends, whatever comfort you have here, one day you're going to wake up. And if we don't prepare from now, then we're going to be like the ones that Allah describes in His book, وَبَدَالَهُمْ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يَكُونُوا يَحْتَسِبُونَ. And there will appear to them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala His anger, His wrath, His punishment, what they didn't expect to see. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to take this moment as a moment to wake up from this heedlessness, from the distraction that the shaitan has set on this path and allowed some of us to undergo. That we recognize that this pandemic is a mercy for the believers, that we treat it that way, and that you bless us to be better people, whether in life or in death, than we were when this thing began. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned, as reported in the hadith of Abu Hurairah مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ دَاءً إِلَّا أَنزَلَهُ شِفَاءً. Allah has not sent down an illness except that He has sent down the cure. As for Corona, I know nothing about that one. I'm talking about the one in your heart and my heart. That's the one we have to be concerned about, because that's the one that has long-lasting effects. أَيْنَمَا تَكُونُ يُدْرِكُمُ الْمَوْتِ. Wherever you are, death is going to find you. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even if you're in fortified towers, you can lock yourself in your home. You can put all the sanitizer on your hands and whatever else. And I'm not saying don't use those things. I'm not saying don't take precaution. But don't think that that is going to prevent death from reaching you and from you having to deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ. Say, verily the death that you run away from, فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. It's going to reach you with a stroke, with a heart attack, with a car accident, whatever it is. ثُمَّ تُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. Then you're going to go back to the one who knows everything, hidden and unhidden, what you did with your actions and what you concealed with your hearts. ثُمَّ يُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. And then He will inform you of what you used to do. And so Allah has sent down a cure for what ails our hearts. That's where the problem is. Allah is going to do His thing. We need to stop worrying about what Allah is going to do. Allah is going to cause to be afflicted who He causes to be afflicted. And He's going to save who He causes to be saved. That's Allah's business. And He already wrote that. And it's going to happen just as He wrote it in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz. What we need to be concerned about is our hearts and our actions, because that's what we're going to be questioned about. La yus'alu an ma yaf'al. He's not going to be questioned about what He does. Wa hum yus'alun. But they will be questioned. And so we don't want to be like those who the Shaitaan made to forget Allah. And so they forgot themselves. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. Don't be like those who forgot Allah. And so Allah made them forget themselves. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. You will know it by their actions. لَا يَسْتَوِي أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ وَأَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ. What do you want to be? What do you want out of this life? The people who are in hell forever and the people who are in heaven forever are not the same. أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. I will leave you with two cures. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that there be a shifa for me on the day of judgment and a shifa for you. The first one is the hadith collected in An-Nasa'i, which is supported by the hadith of Anas in Sahih Bukhari, but we're going to mention the narration mentioned in the Nasa'i is from Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu, where he prayed 2 short rak'ah of prayer. And then the people spoke to him and said, your prayer was very, very short. He said, listen, I prayed like I was supposed to pray. Did I leave anything out? He said, no, you didn't leave anything out. He said, I made a dua in this prayer that I'm pleased with. A man followed him and asked him about the dua that he made. He said, I made the dua that I heard the Prophet ﷺ say, Allahumma bi'ilmika al-ghayb wa qudratika al-khalq. Oh Allah, by your knowledge of the unseen and your power over everything, ahyini ma alimta al-hayata khayrun li. Cause me to live as long as life is best for me. وَأَمِتْنِي إِذَا أَلَمْتَ الْمَوْتَ خَيْرٌ لِي. And cause me to die when death is best for me. If you want to stop worrying, take it out of your hands. Put it in Allah's hands. If you're worried about dying from this thing, let this be your dua. Allah, because you know better than I know how long I should live and when I should die and what's best for me. And because you are able to do all things, let me live as long as you think, as long as you see that life is best for me. And when you think that death is best for me, cause me to die. Take it out of your hands, because you have no control over it in the first place. And put it in Allah's hands. The second cure, the second treatment, I should say, is a dhikr that is to be said, for a person who Allah blesses to be diligent, 210 times a day. Allahu Akbar. 210 times. That's how much we need it. 210 times a day. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith of Abi Hurairah, and it's also mentioned in the adhkar that come after the salat, in the hadith of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, and also in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Both of those hadith, but the hadith we're going to mention now is the hadith of Abu Hurairah, where he said that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that whoever says La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulk wa lahul hamdu wa ala kulli shay'in qadir, that he will have 100 good deeds written for him and 100 bad deeds removed. And that he will get the reward of having freed 10 slaves from the progeny of Ismail. And that it will be a protection for him from the Shaitaan. All day, if he says it in the morning. And if he says it in the evening, it'll be a protection for him from the shaitan all the evening. La ilaha illallah. Remember your purpose here. Your purpose here is La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. That's what you're here for. To practice La ilaha illallah. That's the sirat al-mustaqim that we're forgetting. Lahul mulk. Now remember who Allah is. Lahul mulk. He is the one in control. Walahul hamd. And he has the beautiful qualities that should always make you hope for his mercy and think good about him. Wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. And he can do anything. You get sick, you get afflicted, you're in a bad financial situation, he is in control and he can do anything. SubhanAllah, we use sanitizer religiously. We have all of these precautions that we take when we leave our homes. Say, if you're really concerned about your well-being, work and ask Allah to help you say this phrase 100 times in the morning and 100 times in the afternoon. Perhaps Allah will remove the affliction of fear and anxiety and worry that has afflicted the rest of the creation. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by his goodness and by his mercy to help us to have confidence in him, to be pleased with him as our Lord and as the decider of our affairs, to be pleased with Islam as our religion, and to be pleased with Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as our prophet. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ رَبَّنَا أَحْيِنَا مَا دَامَ الْحَيَاةُ خَيْرٌ لَنَا. O Allah, cause us to live as long as you know that life is best for us. وَأَمِتْنَا إِذَا عَلِمْتَ أَنَّ الْمَوْتَ خَيْرًا لَنَا. And cause us to die when you know that death is best for us. Help us to put our trust in you and to depend on you, and help us to have fear of you and hope of you, and help us to be Muslims and to have confidence in you and to put our trust in you as we should. Be Muslim.